Looking for the perfect way to say I love you, thank you, or to just brighten someone's day? With Mr. Roses, you can say all that and more with their stunning range of luxurious, long-lasting roses, handpicked for their beauty and elegance. And the best part? With same-day delivery available, you can send that special someone the perfect gift, even at the last minute. Visit mrroses.com.au now to find that perfect gift for that perfect someone. Mr. Roses, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast. There's no Ouzo Talk without a bottle of Ouzo, which is why we love the Greek Providor. Get a real taste of the very best produce that Greece has to offer. From olive oils and delicious artisan sweets, to unique spirits, earthy herbs and memorable wines. Visit thegreekprovidor.com.au to see their amazing range. The Greek Providor, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast.
Sound is.
Ouzo Talk, the greatest of all the podcasts.
Thanks for saying that, Stephen Fry.
Well done.
That was very nice of you, Stephen, for coming back for 2 seconds just to say that to us.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen Fry. That was unbelievable. Surprised me, that's for sure.
Did you like that one?
I did, mate. That was good.
I had that saved up in my back pocket just for you.
You did. You said there was a surprising, here we go, he's going to stitch me up here. But that was pretty good. Well done.
Fantastic. Well, mate, we're back.
We are. How good is it?
It is fantastic to be back, and as always, with a fantastic guest. This season has started off really, really well, and we are so excited by the prospect of the guests that we're getting. As we're talking, over the last few days, we've had more people sign up for season 4 of the podcast. Cannot wait to share what's coming up.
Definitely.
We'll bury it, though, for a little bit.
No, we won't say it, but we've got at least, 8 guests locked in, ready to go.
Half the season's done.
Yeah, but it is.
That way.
And like I said, it's very challenging for us because we've got full-time jobs and it's not our full-time gig.
No, it isn't.
And trying to marry up a recording session with our guests that are super busy, but somehow we're managing. Actually, we're more organised this year than other years, I feel. What do you think?
We are. As I said, we do have a fantastic guest with us here. It's a special one for you, isn't it? Because, mate, she's involved with your rugby league club, isn't she?
Mate, she's a legend already. Mate, as soon as I heard that, sign her up, get her in. And more importantly, the sport that we continue to do and my bung knees, I think we've got a lot of questions for her. So
I was going to say, that's probably one of the benefits of being able to do this podcast. You're going to get some little bit of advice, let's say, because, mate, you are the walking wounded at this point. How many times have you been told to stop playing?
It's got to be my last year now. So I'm 52 end of the year. So there's a Rizza World Cup on next year. So that could be my last. I don't know.
Nah.
Too many times.
Bullshit.
I'm not going to stop. Stuff that. Stops for the other guys.
I know, right?
Nah, never.
He's had some of the best specialists in Australia say to him, mate, you're bone on bone. You're done. It's not a good thing for you anymore.
Never done.
But Nico, true to form, true Greek, δεν ξέρει αυτός.
We know more, obviously.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, on that note, shall I introduce our guest?
Definitely, mate. Fire away.
All right, so our guest is an expert on Pilates. She's the founder and owner of Pilates in Sync, has achieved the level of principal trainer with the Pilates Association of Australia, and has also been elected to the PAA board, where she actively contributes to the promotion of Pilates excellence across Australasia. She boasts a unique specialty, training elite athletes across a wide spectrum of industries, from professional footballers to Olympians. She's consistently demonstrated her exceptional ability to tailor Pilates methodologies to the demands of those top-tier athletes, helping them to achieve increased strength and agility, all while preventing injuries. Very important, mate. That's where it's an important one for you, isn't it?
Definitely.
Among a range of roles, she currently plies her trade with the St George Illawarra Dragons, as I mentioned earlier, in the National Rugby League, which I'm sure Nick is very, very happy about. Joining us in the distillery today, Helen Stamatakos. Welcome to Ouzo Talk.
Thank you, boys, for
Welcome,
having me on.
Helen.
It's so exciting.
It's very exciting for us. I'm sure it's even more exciting for Nick, as I said, because
Definitely. I can't wait to hear all the inside scoop about the Dragons and all that.
Who's on the injured list? Who's coming back, mate? It's for your super coach team, isn't it?
It is, definitely. And now that I know who's gone with you, mate, I'm going to pick them first. They're not going to get injured all year. Is that how it works?
Oh, we're hopeful. We're hopeful. I'm actually a Dragons fan, so it's very exciting that I do train some Dragons boys. So.
Yeah. No,
how special is it for you, honestly?
Very special. Very special.
Yeah.
So this country is a very sport-orientated country, so it's exciting that I can make a difference too.
But I love all your reels. They come in, these massive monster blokes come in. And it's like that they respect you so much. They always look up to you, and anything you say, they bow, they run.
It's like I'm an auntie.
Yeah.
Literally. And people actually stop me in the street. I go shopping and I get stopped and, you're that, we follow you on TikTok and what you do with the boys is fantastic. And so they've actually got a bit more exposure based on how I film and what I show. And it's just a bit of fun, but I work them hard.
Yeah.
So,
I can tell. Yeah, Hami Sally always comes in, and I feel
he's my favourite.
Good old Hami.
That was one of my questions. But he's a legend. He's a local boy too from here.
He's fantastic. He's come a long way, and
yeah.
Locko is the rising star.
Yes,
stay tuned
Pacific
for him.
Tonga. Yeah,
hopefully he'll make his debut this year. Yeah, so the boys are great.
Fantastic. No, great. Look, there's a whole list of athletes, not just rugby league players, but I started to write them down, but I lost them. I had to go 2 pages.
Give us a flavour of it. What do we got there?
We're talking Olympic gymnasts, sprint, basketball, Sydney Kings, rhythmic gymnastics, Sydney FC plate, Steve Waugh, cricketer.
Wow.
Cycling. There's a hurdler here. Diving. Melissa Wu. Did you have her? Yeah, she's like a
5-time Olympian.
5-time Olympian.
Wow.
She's won gold this year. I'm sure she has.
No, she won bronze.
Bronze
in the previous Olympics and in Paris. She's made the final in 5 Olympics, which is a massive achievement. And she got a medal in the synchronised section in the Olympics.
Wow.
I think in Beijing, and then she won a bronze medal in the I don't even
the 10
remember.
metre or springboard.
Huge achievements for her. Huge.
Yeah. Kayla George, the female basketballer who won an Olympic bronze recently in
Opals
in Paris. Yep.
She's also part of the Sydney Flames, so she comes very regularly to Pilates and has brought now a lot of the teammates with her. So that's how it goes. I usually work with a lot of individual athletes, and then sometimes it just expands out into teams, which is fantastic. So the word spreads, they go back, they say how good they feel, and then it moves on from there. So
definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And there was a wood chipping bloke, Clayton Reid.
Yeah, wood chopper.
Yeah, so I can
champion.
see that would have a lot of shoulder, knee.
Fantastic, yep. Shoulder, knee, exactly.
Injury, yeah. Wow. And who's Scott Arnold? He's a golfer, isn't he?
Scott Arnold, yep. He was an amateur pro golfer. So it's exciting that I get different athletes from different sports, so I can really tailor it for them. And I think that's probably why people are drawn to coming to me, not only with my Pilates experience, but that I tailor it for their sport and their craft. So they actually feel that it's making a difference, whether or not they come through injury or they want to prevent injury, to be more agile, but generally more mobility and core control is why they come.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We're going to have to go, mate. She
I
just
know.
answered all our questions. We
Absolutely.
need mobility, we need flexibility.
You of all people who's still bloody playing.
I know. I get
Play
injured.
football.
Oztag and touch footy.
How old are you?
Both. 51.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
See, there you
Good
go.
for you. You've got to keep
I'm
moving.
going to hang out with you more often, Tom. No, definitely. That's what I say. You got to keep on moving.
I'm nearly half his bloody age. It stopped playing. How long has it been now? Jeez, 15. It's almost 20 years now.
Wow.
Since I stopped playing.
I know it's not an excuse, but you're young kids. But I think when they grow up, I reckon you'll be back.
Let's see. This could be the beginning of something special for me. Let's see.
Definitely.
All right. Well,
I
on
think
that
it's
note,
time, mate.
shall we do the honours?
Yes, let's have a drink.
Stiniyamas.
Cheers, Stiniyamas. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you, boys.
What should I say?
Cheers,
Thanks,
Yamas.
Yamas. All right. As always. Very,
Actually
very
like
good.
that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think of it?
It's good.
Beautiful.
I
That
could do some
is-
cooking with that.
Yeah. That is actually a favourite of Mary Custis's, actually. So
Really?
she has that with a splash of lime.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
fresh lime. she
Nice.
puts that. Yeah, lots
She
of
loves
lime.
it.
Fantastic.
But that's compliments of our sponsor. So the Greek providor pilates.com.au have given us another range of beautiful selection of tasty beverages, Tom, and Helen has chosen
beverages.
They're very tasty, Tom. Kleos, the Mastika Spirit, is what Helen's drinking. And what did you choose out of this list of stuff that we've got on?
I went with my my own island specialty, the Lazaris, because you can't go wrong with it.
So where do you actually buy this? If I'd like to purchase this bottle, in all seriousness.
Great question.
Yeah,
fantastic, great segue. So it's if you go to thegreekprovodor.com.au on their website, there's a section called In the Bar, and if you scroll down it. Click on it and
so it's all online.
Be delivered to your front doorstep. So they bring in all types of Greek products like spices and types of food and all types of spirits. All these spirits are...
I'll check it out because I do like to source a lot of Greek stuff. So fantastic.
GreekProvidor.com.au, that is the perfect place because this is the premium. It's the top shelf of everything
there you go, guys. Get on it, Greek Providor.
Absolutely. And let's not end it there because we do have support in the form of Mr. Roses, don't we?
Yes, Mr. Roses, legend. So all those guys that just missed out on getting their partners something for Valentine's Day.
We've heard some stories already, guys.
So look, you got a chance to redeem yourself. So get on to mrroses.com.au. Did your husband get you anything for Valentine's Day?
My birthday's 2 days after, so I always get chipped out on Valentine's Day.
Oh, really?
But yeah, generally, yeah. I've been married a while, so he used to.
It's all rolled into one now,
it's always nice getting something on Valentine's Day, but roses are beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. So we did hear about your husband's Catherian, eh?
Yes, George.
Yeah, George, good old Georgie boy.
Yeah.
Mark Brewer's had an interesting view on Catherians, didn't he?
He had a fan.
What did Mark say?
He had a controversial, let's say controversial view on Catherians, of who his best mates are Catherians.
He's surrounded by them.
He is. Actually, it wasn't his view, it was his old man's view.
Ah, yes. Good call. He
said,
sorry, Mark.
Yeah. So this quote is not attributed to him. It was something along the lines of, Catherian would jump the fence to save the hinge.
Oh.
In other words, they say tight.
Tight asses. Yeah.
They
Could
jump the
say
fence
that?
You can say whatever you like.
Yeah, we're among friends.
After a shot of my sticker. No, perfect. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Roses. Guys, get out there, get on the website. I think we've already talked about this, but they got occasion roses. So thank you roses.
Memorial roses.
Memorial, birthday. So
I forgot Valentine's Day roses.
That's a good one. I think that's a great one to have on there.
Yeah, good idea.
Isn't for you guys, we wouldn't have these podcasts coming out. So get out there and support them. So they support us, we should support them.
Absolutely. And great Greek businesses. So thank you for your support, guys. Well, on that note, Helen.
Yes.
Focus back on you now. Tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, we know you're Greek. You've mentioned your partner is Catherian.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your family background. Where are your parents from?
So my parents are both from Corinthia, Greece.
Yep.
My mother is from a place called Kiato, and dad's from Mulki, which is a little bit further up, 5 minutes from Kiato. So very close proximity to each other. Okay. Beautiful. I visited there last year. It's on the coast and it's actually quite popular and a trendy place. A lot of bars.
Really?
Yeah, it's cool.
And were your grandparents born there as well?
Yes.
How far back do you go from Kiato?
Basically, my papu was born there and mum was born Mulki was where... So it's where all the grandparents and the parents are from, so it's from generations.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, right.
But were they farmers? Were they fishermen? I guess you're on the coast, you could be both.
Well, I'd probably say farming because I think they were ploughing and they used horses back then to plough, so I'd say they were farming.
Yeah, right.
Not really in the fishing side.
And was it your parents that actually made the decision to come here? Or
yes.
Yeah, right.
So my father was 26 when he decided to move to Australia. So my uncle, he was one of... He was very close to my Uncle George, who came out. I think back then the government in Australia sponsored people to come to Australia to migrate because they needed workers. So... Yes. My uncle came first when he was like 17. I actually have a book that they've been in a book.
Oh, really?
Right. Sounds good. Do you know what year it was?
Dad migrated to Australia in 1956.
Okay.
So pre-60s. and worked in a factory as a labourer. There's actually a funny story. So my uncle, who had previously come to Australia, said, now John, because he was Yanis, and my uncle was Yorwo, and he said, look, Yanis, they're going to ask you 2 questions, and let's get these questions right. It's like, how old are you and how long have you been in Australia for? So he said, you say you're 26 and you've been in Australia 7 days. Well, of course, the person asking the interview switched the questions around and said, how long have you been in Australia for? And he's 7 days. And how old are you? 26. 26. So he switched them around and, the manager was laughing and it was great because he still got the job, but it was Dad was stressed about answering the questions in order.
Wow, cheeky bugger. And what was that job for?
I think it was back then machinery. Yeah, I think making coolants for machinery.
And this was in Sydney?
Yes, in Sydney. Wow. I think they came to Newtown first and then they moved to Seven Hills where they started a business with my uncle. So it was like a milk bar and a fruit shop. So nice. And then they kind of split ways and started the business from there. But the interesting thing is that they actually decided to go, my dad decided to, when he stayed here for a few years and then Mum came over. Back then I think they wrote to the parent. It was like a mail order bride type thing. The proxy.
Sponsor. Yep.
And my mum's name was Zana. Interesting name for a Greek name actually, Zana, which is, she was christened Ioana.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and she was a Thermopolis, so she was part of Kyoto. She came over and they got married a year later and my 2 sisters were born not long after. But then I think they decided to pack up, sell a few assets and go back to Greece, hoping that they were going to stay there. And then they got back and decided, life's not good here.
Yeah.
We need to go back.
There's a lot of instances
I think it happened, They were prepared to work hard, but they realised there wasn't enough opportunity in Greece. So they decided to come back and, they kind of started the business again. And I was number 4, so I was born in Borkham Hills in 71. So part of the 60s, they worked a lot of hours, 7 days a week. And it was normal for them to work hard. They expected it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I think Dad's philosophy was money grows on trees. In Australia, it's the land of prosperity. We're prepared to work hard. But back in Greece, life was different. Yeah. So they enjoyed the opportunity that Australia offered. It was very promising for migrants back then by the sound of it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Looking for the perfect way to say I love you, thank you, or to just brighten someone's day? With Mr. Roses, you can say all that and more with their stunning range of luxurious, long-lasting roses, handpicked for their beauty and elegance. And the best part? With same-day delivery available, you can send that special someone the perfect gift, even at the last minute. Visit mrroses.com.au now to find that perfect gift for that perfect someone. Mr. Roses, proud sponsors of the Ouzo Talk podcast.
Great point that you said, working 7 days a week, because they all worked 7 days a week back in Greece.
They did.
They were working day, night. There was no choice. They had to work. So coming here, said, I'm going to work that many hours and you're going to pay me? Sure. So they all, work their ass off. And I guess we're the generation that are benefiting from it, I guess.
One of the interesting things as well, just on that, they had no idea about worker rights or anything like that.
No.
Just last week, my granddad was telling you.
Yes, that's right.
When they first realised, hang on a second, we're actually entitled to sick leave and 4 weeks holidays or whatever the hell it was. And then they started getting wise to it. And the Greek bosses were not happy with that at the time because they were like, oh, mathate oli tora, they had these workers that were willing to work all year round 24/7. And then all of a sudden, the rights came into play.
Yeah, I think in terms of relationships would have been hard leaving their motherland, family, and they were lonely from what I gather and what I found out. They were very lonely, hence why they wanted a companion. They wanted to start a life. But the business side of it, I think it was a little different than what we have as businesses today. Like, we wear a lot of hats in a business today. A lot of issues we have with staff and rights and HR and so forth. Back then, life was different. It was just labour.
Yes.
It was just work hard, stay open, 7 days a week, count the money in the back of the shop.
Definitely.
So,
Look, when you're talking about immigration, I remember reading a story not long ago. After World War II, when Japanese were invading Australia, there's only like 1 or 2 million people in Australia. It wasn't much. And part of the strategy was we need more people just to build an economy, build a country to defend ourselves.
It was the Curtin government that came out with the catch cry, populate or perish.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is the direct reason why, and it's actually your parents' era when they came here.
Yeah, because they started off with the English. I think it was the two Bob Pom, they used to call them. Then it went to the Yugoslavs, Italians and Greeks. So they sort of came out in the early 50s, all that sort of stuff. So, so there you go. We all got invited out here. My parents had a similar story to yours. We ended up in St. Peter's, Newtown. Yeah. Mum cried for the first, 3 months, she said. She goes, we're from the mountains in Greece.
Right.
She goes, the air was clean, the water was clean, the food. And he goes, I came here and there was factory smell, there was brick walls. Yep. It was all concrete jungle. And for her, it was like a nightmare. She goes, what am I doing here? So
it would have been terrible in terms of their self-esteem and their depression, how they would have felt. I
mean, how would that make you feel now? It's a question we haven't really asked. Like, putting yourself in that position.
Horrible.
How would you actually be? To be displaced like that in a place that you don't know, you don't speak the language, especially if you've got that sort of experience where it's like, this place looks like hell.
I have a lot of athletes that actually just decide to go overseas and move and live and just work. And I take my hat off to them because that's tough. Like young dancers that want to go to England, yes, they can speak the language. It's probably easier than going to somewhere, for instance, like France, where you speak a lot of like French. One of my staff members that I work with was in the Moulin Rouge for 20 years and she was Australian, Delene. And she decided just when she was young just to go and dance over there. So that would have been hard, just learning the language, trying to but your passion and will to keep going is probably what drives you to stay afloat, so to speak. So definitely it would have been hard for our parents and ancestors.
Well, that's what I was going to say. For them, it wasn't so much the passion, I don't think. It was probably, or what do you think it was?
What's our choice?
Yeah,
really,
it's
our best option.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's survival at that point.
Correct. And let's not forget that they had that, the German occupation, which when they were growing up in their teens, which would have been very tough. They weren't directly affected in the sense, taken and marched off to concentration camps, but life was very different in terms of hardships and seeing just invasion of their area and loved ones dying and so forth. So it's still happening today, unfortunately, but in terms of in other countries. So,
Did your parents have any stories about that? We've heard so many stories from other guests.
Oh, apparently it was not uncommon for my father when he was, walking home from school to see the rebels hung on the tree. There was an interesting story that my brother actually told me that brought me to tears. I had no idea that my grandmother was a very smart woman and my grandfather was, I think, early 40s, and they decided to line up or take the able-bodied people to camps, but not concentration camps. It was like labour camps to make the military ancillary stuff that they were to use in war. So he was kind of taken out of his home and put on the truck, and my yaya actually lined up all the kids. I think there were 5 at the time, and she told them very quickly and very sharply, you are to cry and howl as loud as you can. And she got them to scream and cry, like demanding that, don't take our dad kind of thing. And my Uncle George, who came with my dad, actually didn't cry enough, so she was pinching him on the ear to cry louder.
Really?
And then the sergeant or the person that was the German officer went over to somebody and said, who are they crying about? What man are they talking about? And then one of the officers pointed to my papa, and it's like, take him off.
Wow.
Let him
So it
stay with
worked.
his family. So it worked. And I had no idea, like just the quick thinking that my yaya would have done to do that.
What a story.
Yeah. I mean, you know, who knows what could have happened to him.
Yeah.
And there were unlucky ones that had to go and obviously go to the camps. Because that was 3 years of occupation, I think, 1942 to 1945.
And that area copped it hard
They
as
did.
well,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
really
Yes,
bad.
they were a coastal town or the coast area, so it was like it was more that they had, you know, ships were coming in and out. So I think up in the mountains was affected differently.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but they needed as a thoroughfare. So it was a lot happening. And if you minded your own business and weren't causing trouble like the rebels were, they left you alone,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
They just kind of move you in the basement
Yeah.
of your house and
Yep.
occupy
Yeah.
things. So
Definitely.
apart from that, these are the only stories I really know. I'm sure there's others, but
It's a great story.
They don't all
Uncle
end that
George.
way, unfortunately.
Still laughing at you, young Uncle George.
Uncle George's ear was pinched more because
Pinch his ear.
yeah,
Collapse it,
wasn't. Yeah. Kia ora nata. Kia ora nata.
And the threats that would have
Because
come out of
as
her.
being German, they wouldn't have understood
Yeah.
in terms of what she was saying to the
Yeah.
kids.
Classic.
Mate,
I can
the
imagine George. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Mate, the threats that would have
But it
come out of
worked.
Yaya would have been worse than
Yeah.
any nuts he could have put out.
Yeah, that was the best.
And then he lived to be an old man, my papa. So that worked.
Wow.
Wow.
There you go. She saved him.
She did. She actually did.
Fascinating. All right, so let's move on to Pilates. So can you explain to us what is Pilates and how is it different from the other fitness practices like yoga and strength and conditioning?
So Pilates was designed by a man, Joseph Pilates. A lot of people don't realise that it's actually a man in Germany that was born in Germany that came up with the method. It was actually called contrology when he came up with the idea of well-being and holistic approach. And when he passed away, it became known as Pilates. It was approved in America in a court that anybody could use the name in a business and have access to the word Pilates in order to teach it, because it's really like a trademark name.
Right.
So it was accepted, and it's a universally worldwide name now that you just think is a method, but it's actually after him. It's like known as the Stamatakos method.
Yeah.
It's the Pilates method.
Yeah, wow.
So he designed this, and he was very ahead of his time. He was actually a genius who invented machines and came up with the idea that you need to move your body in a holistic way, because it's about posture and about breathing, and we don't live to our maximum capacity. He's actually written a book, Return to Life, and it has some very interesting things written in there, such as quotes like, "You're only as old as how your spine feels." He believed that his method was foolproof if you followed it. So in 10 sessions, you'll feel the difference. In 20 sessions, you'll see the difference. And in 30 sessions, you'll have a whole new body. That kind of prospect. So that is his idea, but following his, so to speak, philosophy of doing it 3 times a week, working on the equipment. It's changed a lot these days in terms of it's become a very contemporary approach. We look at it a lot like a physio muscular base, but back then it was rehabilitation, and he actually, because it was during the war, helped rehabilitate soldiers. So the concept came from hospital beds and the spring action. He got inspiration. He was an inventor, so he invented like the Wonder Chair, the Cadillac.
Okay. Was this when he went to the States?
Yes.
So he'd gone.
That was later.
Born in Germany,
Born
I think.
in
Then he
Germany.
went to England, 1912 or something like that. Then he ended up going to the States,
New York.
and that's New York, and that's when it really took off.
Yes,
Him
so
and
he
his
got
wife.
affiliated with some doctors that started to refer to him, and some dancers. So pretty much athletes and dancers were his primary customers initially, because he was like a crazy old man on the corner of somewhere in New York that,
Yeah.
who is this bloke? Why is he good? What does he offer? and it's almost like you had no choice. You may have been injured and you wanted to perform in a ballet, and there was really no other option for you, so people tried it and they found huge results.
So it sounds like there's like a secret weapon type quality about this
Absolutely.
person. He's like the Yoda of, this guy is the guy
he
that's going to get it done. He was an
absolute genius, and he actually said, I am ahead of my time. People will remember me when I die, and the method will live on. So it's shifted a little bit in terms of becoming a little bit more generic now, but it was a very specialised industry back then, and my studio is very specialised, and they're not around a lot in terms of boutique studios that offer all the equipment that are fully decked out. Now it's become like one piece of equipment, like reformer classes, or there's mat classes. So things have kind of changed a little bit over time. So, I mean, he died in the 50s, so things have definitely shifted since then.
So was he Greek?
I mean, with that kind of name,
there
must
is a little bit of a misinterpretation of that. The idea is that he was German, born from German parents. However, there is talk that the father was Greek, or German, raised in Greece, or did gymnastics in Greece. So it's like an indirect thing.
Right.
So
I
like
don't really want to say he's Greek, because I actually would like to, but I can't say.
Well, we can say it. We'll claim it. We can claim him.
We half claim everyone, so...
I think it got lost to the translation that he looked at the Greek idea of the philosophers, the way they used to train back in the Olympics, that aspect of how the Greeks were very disciplined, their mindset, their practices. So maybe it's taken out of context. Possibly.
Okay.
Very interesting.
But Germany claims them.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, how much on that point? How much of an influence do you think there is from the ancient Greeks on something like this? Is that something that's known within the industry?
I think because not necessarily, but I think as a Pilates practitioner, Pilates is very much an intelligent way of movement. So I think that the inspiration coming from Greek philosophy and from the understanding how smart the Greeks were and ahead of their time, and I'm not just being biased here because I'm Greek, but let's face it, boys, the Greeks were legends.
That's right.
Aristotle.
We say it all the time, don't we, Tom?
That's why we do this.
So I think Mr. Pilates was a smart man and did a lot of research on the philosophers and thought, holistic and well-being and an approach to life, and took that and basically designed a method of movement, of breathing and understanding, working your internal muscles and, being in tune with your body.
See, that's the part that interests me the most, because I can't think of any other sort of exercise methodology or anything that incorporates everything, including things like breathing.
Yoga is different in the sense that it's a bit more spiritual. You're working on a lot of strength poses. It dates back centuries. The style of breathing is different. It's very nasal breathing. You're meditating. Pilates is more, I'd say, functional based, so you're constantly moving with control. Because let's not forget it was called contrology. So his idea was that you are controlling your movements and you are creating a difference in your body because you feel strong from the inside. So it's a connection. Yes, it's a connection because the principles are very unique of breathing, of coordination, of control, and understanding the body. So you really got to concentrate. So a lot of people, it does their head in because they can't coordinate their breathing with their movements. So they find it's a little bit overwhelming. But if you get Pilates and you master it, it's amazing. It's life-changing, and hence why I became an instructor, because I had a career as a high school teacher and I changed. And I decided that I would like to be a disciple of Pilates, so to speak, and spread the word because it changed my life.
Well, let's talk about that because, I mean, to go from being a teacher to then saying, I'm going to go and become a disciple, great way to put it. What was it that actually did it? Did you take a class? Did you read about it? What was it that made you shift?
So I was probably quite young at the time. I'd say about 12 or 13. My mother was diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, which was quite upsetting for the family in the sense also it was a disease that wasn't well known. It wasn't common. And she started to have a lot of changes in the sense of balance and a lot of falls and neurological disease. So now they've kind of isolated it's a virus in the brain and it affects the nerve fibres. Anyway, she was diagnosed with MS and I was at home. I had 2 older sisters that left home and I was at home with my brother and we were pretty much carers for her.
Wow.
So I had to do a lot as a teenager. And a lot of it was lifting. So I had a bad back from lifting. It was transferring her out of the wheelchair into the bed and so forth and helping her off and on the toilet and from a young age. And I was pretty much going to school, coming back, helping around the house, helping care for a sick parent, which wasn't easy. Somehow I ended up going to university and becoming a teacher, so kudos to me that I pursued that. Probably the drive and ambition from my parents, I'd say, to move forward. Nonetheless, I had back pain and my elder sisters discovered Pilates and said, this is an amazing method. You really need to try this. Madonna does it. Okay. Back then, she was an advocate for it. Find somewhere that does it. And I found a man that teaches it, that taught it. He was from the army, so it had that disciplinarian background because it's a very military approach style of movement. Mm-hmm. If you're a Pilates person and a fan, you'd know that it's very much by the book, which is the way I teach. And he said to me, after 3 years of practicing it twice a week, it was a huge difference on my spine. And I felt no back pain and I felt stronger. My posture was better. And I was a dancer as well in my younger years, so I kind of related to the coordination aspect and the movement principles, and I just got it. Then I was a teacher as well, so it was the best of both worlds of being a communicator, so I could communicate to somebody how to move, plus I understood it in my body. So I decided after 3 years of practicing it that I would pursue a course and teach it. But I never had the intention of doing it full time. I thought it's just a sidekick.
Yep.
I'll just do it on the side because I was a high school teacher and I was passionate about that. So I decided I'll just have it as an extra notch on my belt. So I was qualified as a food technology teacher.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then I changed to PE. Okay. So I loved movement and I was based with mum being unwell and I was pursuing a career in physiotherapy because I loved just watching how she was rehabilitated when I used to help take her to the MS Society, and I thought I want to be a physio one day and help people move better. So my love for movement kind of started back then when I wanted to help her.
It's interesting that you can see this progression from you becoming. I mean, you obviously had to grow up very quickly.
I did.
To help with your mum, and then trying to give back.
Yes.
The teaching, and then going in, this interest that you had in movement and helping people.
It all fell into place.
Yeah.
It was just like a life pans you out like that.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And how did that feel? I mean, did your mother, sort of appreciate that change that was sort of happening? Was she aware of the fact that you were making quite conscious efforts? I'm guessing
unfortunately not really, because when I finished all that, she'd passed away.
Right.
So she never really got to benefit. She saw me through university, of course, but more as a teacher. Yeah, the Pilates aspect happened later. So,
was it for her?
I guess she was my inspiration, but more for me because I had pain and niggles that I just thought were normal. It's just like when you can't see something and you think that vision is normal unless you go and get your eyes tested. Yeah. You just think it's blurry.
Great point.
Yeah. Good analogy. So I just thought everyone has a bit of back pain or it's niggles. I didn't realise that posture could be corrected. I was only ignorant to that because no one had ever told me. So it's funny that sometimes people show you things, or you're presented with things and it's a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference. And Pilates for me was, I can honestly say, without it sounding corny, it was a life-changing moment that I fell in love with it. And I wasn't really an exercise person. I didn't really like exercise. So it was something that I loved to do, and I felt like it was a meditative way of moving, but getting the benefit out of it at the same time.
So it would have been very rewarding for you as well, watching people coming in, busted, and you rehabilitated them and watching them skip out of the...
So I've been teaching for 25 years and had my business for, this is the 19th year.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot.
Wow.
And the athlete side of it are the bells and whistles. But there were a lot of people before the elite athletes, of just general public. Like, I could just tell you stories that would be, it's amazing, of the people that have walked into my studio, of people that work in like funeral, carrying coffins and having bad backs, your labourers, your office workers, your mums. A lady had 8 kids once, and her pelvic floor was just busted because she just kept popping these kids out. And I would just say, you need to stop popping kids out. And Pilates would help her.
Yeah.
So it actually helps everybody in some way. And there's no other exercise method that really does that so well. Whether it's your elite athlete or your beginner runner that just wants to not have knee pain, or your person that is elderly that wants to garden, that wants to bend over, and not have a sore back. Somebody that, in terms of any trade, you think of, throw me any trade you can think of, and it benefits them in some way in terms of what you do is in terms of your career. As I said, the worst thing is sitting and having a desk spine. That's killing us.
That's what I was going to say, because, everyone associates, the big risks with things like trades and labouring and whatnot, sitting at a desk. The body's
designed to move like a car's designed to be driven.
Yeah.
And if it sits in a garage, it gets dusty and the engine doesn't run smooth. It's the same with people. Your body is designed to move, otherwise the joints aren't lubricated and you get stiff and sticky. I use a lot of analogy when I teach, and when I explain it, people understand it like that. So it's good to have movement, but when you over move and you move excessively, it's like you're revving a car and you'll burn it out.
Right.
So you burn out the engine. So people that move too much in the sense of going to the gym and lifting too heavy or over running, then you wear your body out. So there's a saying in Pilates, it's as much as necessary, as little as possible. That's how your movement should be. So it's efficiency of movement. And that's why the movement is intelligent. So done correctly, it's genius. Yes, we can add heavy springs. Yes, we can do more reps. The load can change, but the general method, the philosophy and the methodology is fantastic if applied properly. So you really got to go to someone who knows what they're doing.
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask was how much of this, first and foremost, comes down to education and people understanding? Because it sounds like you can't get to that level without it sinking in first.
No, you can't. And it does help that I have been a teacher so I can communicate, but that's probably why I have chosen to accept being an educator for the Pilates industry. So I'm employed by a training organisation to train future teachers. And you mentioned in the introduction that I was on the board of Pilates Association of Australia. I did quite a number of years there, which is fantastic. But unfortunately, on a side note, our industry is not regulated. So that's probably our downfall, that anyone can just do a course and claim that they're a Pilates teacher.
Is this unique to Pilates or the fitness industry in general?
No, unique. I'm not really sure about the Pilates, the fitness industry, but in terms of Pilates, the non-regulation is an issue.
Right.
Big issue. So it's a matter of the customer needing to do their homework of where they're going and what qualifications they have.
Sure.
And understanding that there is a big body that tries to oversee everything, but it's not compulsory for you to have done a course and complying in anatomy and physiology and understanding the repercussions, because we correlate a lot with physiotherapy because we're muscular based.
Yes.
We correlate a lot. So if you have an understanding of the body and movement, then you're a good teacher. But a lot of people just look at it like it's a bunch of exercises and they're learning choreography. That's the difference.
Okay.
Of how you get out, what you get out of it.
Yeah.
You boys are looking very interested in what I'm saying. I think you want to take up
are.
Pilates.
I think so. Yeah,
It's fascinating. I don't know anything about it.
Well, I've
really.
sort of trained. We did that Peter Meneses thing. It's a little bit like Pilates,
sure.
I think.
Yeah.
So Pilates, it's not really lifting heavy weights. It's like a combination of stretching, putting your body in different positions.
Stretching is a little bit of a loose word because...
Yeah. How would you describe it? How would you describe Pilates?
Great question, because when people start with me and I do an assessment, I generally say, what are your goals? And people say, I want to become more flexible. Now, flexibility is important, which is stretching. We all know that. However, Pilates is a little bit more unique and a little bit more forward thinking in the sense it's more mobility training.
Right.
And mobility is the key word. And it's a bit of a trendy word these days to chuck it out there and say we need more mobility. Hence the sporting world, like the football players, they all need mobility, because when you can't access a joint, for instance, your hip or your shoulder, in terms of the range of motion around the joint, then you can't access or you can't fully connect into your muscles, because your joint controls a lot. It's like almost the driving force or the memory chip in a computer.
Right.
So if your shoulder is sticky and you don't rotate it properly, then you're going to feel possible bicep or tricep problems. Or you may feel if your hip isn't rotating and you're not getting enough flexion where it's reaching up, or extension where you're taking your leg back, then you get hamstring problems. So therefore, if you're running and your hips are tight, you pull a hamstring. So it's not necessarily the tightness and flexibility that's the issue. It's coming from the joints. So Pilates target your joints fantastic because of the range of motion in the exercises you're doing. So we all need to do a lot more joint work, which is mobility stuff. And it's not a separate entity. So don't think you just have to do a few exercises where you just move your hips around. It's incorporated in the exercise system of Pilates. So it's not a separate thing like a stretch class. When you get on the reformer and you do feet in straps, you start to move your legs up and down, you're moving your hips. So you're actually moving, and the magic happens in the movement. So you don't have to hold a stretch. You know, when people say to me, oh, I'm so tired, I just want to stretch today, I want to slap them for that, because that's not what it's about.
So when he asked that question...
It's incorporating movement, actually. Wow. It's moving and getting the benefit as you move. And only when you do it right and start getting into it, you realise, wow, I actually didn't hold anything. I'm just moving properly in a controlled space, because the equipment support you, which is the beauty of it. For instance, if you're very tight in your hamstrings and you can't hold your legs up, the straps hold you. So it's a framework or a scaffold as you move. So you can access the areas that you need to. So it supports you. You're not cheating. That's why the equipment's popular. That's why reformer classes are popular. But the mat work that people do, have you heard of mat Pilates? So
No,
you just
not
do it on
really.
a mat.
No.
So
Okay.
a lot of gyms do it, or
I feel like that's what we know most about.
yeah, it's a system and an order that Joseph Pilates came up with, but it was almost like you learn on the equipment, understand the body, how to move, and then you do your mat work to almost keep it, sustain it, maintain it, maintain your movement. Because mat Pilates is difficult. You don't have any support. You have to understand where the resistance comes from.
Okay, so you got to be in tune with your body to say when enough's enough.
Yeah, and that leads probably to the elite athletes, why they love it.
Yeah.
Because they do a lot of strength training in whatever sport, this is a different aspect. This is different for them because they are working on mobility. They don't feel as stiff. They're very fine-tuned, so even a little bit of Pilates will make a huge difference. We're talking 1 hour a week makes a huge difference to all my athletes because they're constantly doing programs in the gym, constantly doing, their training regime. I have a triple jumper Olympian who comes to me and he tells me he holds his breath when he jumps because the rigidity helps to prevent injury. But I said, when you hold your breath, you're not able to get that connection that you need. So we've been working on breath work, understanding where his issues lie because he constantly has hip problems or hamstring problems, jarring. But you think about it, when someone is having an accident or someone is under stress, you grip.
Yes.
You strain the body, you tense.
Okay.
So it's understanding, yes, maybe that's important for him, but outside of that craft and sporting regime, he needs to practice the method so that his functional movement in his sport can be achieved and fixed if he's got another issue.
I can't help but think, with everything that you just mentioned there, it almost feels like there needs to be like the ultimate example of how someone is meant to move, how you're supposed to move your arm, the way that how far your neck can move, for example, that sort of thing. Is there a blueprint for how,
No.
It's just individual and
It's
how
very
far you can take?
individual, because I understand that if you've got back issues, and a lot of people throw that they want to be labelled in a scan, I've got a bulging disc, I've got spondylolisthesis, I have stenosis, arthritis, all these words.
All Greek words, I might add.
Correct. But generally speaking, if you don't have pain or if you're not aware of any issue with it, sometimes we kind of want to know, and then we go, oh, I have an issue, and you label it and you become a little bit
infested.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas my physio tells me that sometimes scans, it's not really about what's written in the scan. It's how you function in life. Are you able to put your undies on? Can you put your socks on? Can you function by standing up without and sitting down? Can you walk? Can you get down, get the kids off the floor? The beauty of Pilates also, it's very functional based because you're moving constantly in a functional way. So again, whether it's sporting or whether it's somebody cooking a meal, it's very functional. Bending down, reaching up, grabbing something out of a cupboard. So again, it helps to increase performance on the elite level and fix any injuries or help that, but also it just helps the average person survive every day.
Yeah. You might have touched on it earlier, but is it more of a rehabilitation or is it preventative from injury, Pilates?
It tends to be known as that. I used to get a lot of clients that were injured and considered like a soft option. I can't train, or I can't do this. This is my option. This is my choice. But I think there is a big shift now that people do come to me or they do Pilates and they don't have an issue. It's just they want to run faster, jump higher, reach more, and prevent the injury. And that's where the NRL have come in and decided, I think, as a smart approach for their players, because they're under a lot of duress with their bodies. The lifespan of an NRL player is very short in terms of what they can endure. Not only concussions, but shoulder issues, knee issues. They retire generally broken.
Well, neither of us played at an elite level, really. And, mate, hips, knees, ankles, yourself, your knees.
Yeah.
Broken. And we never played at that level.
See?
Yeah.
Because of repeated movement or probably something that your body couldn't access, so you were overcompensating and overworking areas. And you're not alone. General population is that. Most people are so feeling stiff and sore. And as I said before, they think it's the norm. Unless someone tells you, I think it gets to a point where you feel it interferes in your life and you've got to do something about it. Yeah. But I get a lot of people saying, I've been watching you for a while, or I've been wanting to come for years. I've decided this is it. Yeah. So some people need a shift or a reminder, which is great. And they get very nervous when they start because I think it's the unknown, or they're scared of me. I don't know.
But an hour a week doesn't sound like much.
It's very powerful, a Pilates session 1 hour a week, let me tell you.
Wow.
If done correctly.
Okay.
There is no time to even think of the clock or putting a load of washing on. You are working non-stop. It's a brain workout too.
Speaking of athletes, I did see an article of Shaun Johnson, and he called you the GOAT.
He did.
So, greatest of all time. So I understand he had a really bad Achilles, or he snapped his Achilles heel, I think it was.
I saw Shaun for 2 years while he was in Sydney at the Sharks. Fantastic athlete. Probably one of my best in terms of mindset that I've ever taught.
Really?
He is the GOAT, actually, himself. And he, unfortunately, during his time at the Sharks, snapped his Achilles. I still remember the game. And that was a 9-month recovery. And that was during COVID as well. So he was back and forth from New Zealand, and I was doing online sessions with him. And then he would wear the boot, and then he would come into the studio. And I would like to credit that I helped him back on the field, but it wasn't just me. But in terms of the Pilates specialty that it is, it's when somebody is taken away from their sport because of major injury, it's not considered an easy option, but it really keeps them supple and moving in a way that's safe, and you're not loading the joints in a way like you can't weight bear, or it's against gravity. So it's a very unique way of exercising, because you think about it, if somebody's hurt their leg or they've torn their hamstring off the bone, you can do so many other things in Pilates because you're laying down, you're sitting. It's a very versatile way of training, which is why it's so good. Whereas conventionally you're at the gym and you're doing a lot of rehab standing or physio stuff.
Yeah.
So
give us some examples. So what would you've got Shaun Johnson to do to rehabilitate his Achilles?
Is this for your own benefit?
Or for me, mine's my knee, right? So I'm on bone on my right knee, but I'm stiff everywhere. And I know what it is, because I sit down and then I come home and I probably sit on the couch for a bit as well. So it's probably soft. But even though I try and be mobile, try and play touch, and try and go to the gym, I still feel very stiff.
So with Shaun, it was keeping him moving, as I said, so on the equipment. So we would, while he was wearing the boot, and I had to be very careful because initially there is a process of healing, and you have to be careful that you don't override what the specialists say in terms of taking the boot off or weight bearing or loading. So we would just, do specialty reformer stuff of arms in straps, and we'd work his back muscles, because any time you have an injury, you compensate, so you start to get sore in other places. So you're moving around with a sore hip, you weight bear and you compensate, so you feel a little bit tender in your back. So it's like you're carrying something around, so it's an extra burden on your body. So we would work around the issue, and then when we could weight bear and load, I would access springs and help him work on eccentric movement, which is Pilates at its best, which is lengthening.
What's eccentric movement?
So you've got 3 types of movement. You've got eccentric, where you're lengthening, so you resist the resistance.
Mm-hmm. So you're pushing out?
You're pushing out and resisting it back in.
Okay.
So you've got concentric, where you're contracting like a bicep curl, so you're shortening the muscle. Okay. And that's a lot of strength work comes from concentric stuff. So very weights that you do. And isometric. Isometric is where you're holding a position. So you might hold a deadlift.
Yeah.
You're holding it. So again, it builds strength in a different way. All 3 have benefit, but Pilates ideally is popular because it's eccentric work. So that resistance that you get from lengthening creates control in the body and helps prevent injury, because you're almost conditioning the muscle. So it's eccentric work.
Okay.
So an athlete who does strength-based work and adds the Pilates in is got the best of both worlds. It's ideal, because you've got your strength and your mobility work or your flexibility work happening twofold, which is genius, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
So if you just go to the gym, yes, you're getting stronger, you're building your bone density, you're increasing your heart rate. It's great for your cardio.
But
we all
you're
need heart
shortening.
health. Well, people that cycle all the time, go to the gym all the time, do cardio all the time, they tend to feel very tight because you're loading, you feel like there's a shortening. And again, unless someone shows you or you do a mobility exercise and work on eccentric movement, you don't feel the difference unless you try it and you go, oh my God, this is amazing. I feel so good. So that's the catalyst for people coming back for saying, oh, it's the best thing I've ever done.
So with cyclists, they're doing the same repetition over and over. I'm sure that other muscles would give way, wouldn't they? Is that where you sort of come in?
They're very strong though. Their legs are very strong, but they're leaning forward, so the aches would happen in terms of shoulders, lower back, because you're leaning forward a lot. Any position you are constantly in for a longer period of time, yes, you are getting strong, but it's not the anatomical way of life, of standing up straight.
Yeah.
Really.
Makes sense.
Yes.
I want to hear some rugby league stories now. We
Really?
finally got there, Tom.
Yeah.
So who would be, say, I think you mentioned Shaw Johnson. So who else would be one of your better athletes? So I'm assuming it's more mental in Pilates.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No. So the first NRL player, gosh, you guys, let's see if you know these names. So the first one that I ever taught was Kyle Stanley.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
Oh, you know Kyle
Yeah,
Stanley.
him and his brothers.
And he had knee issues,
Yes,
lots of
he
knee
did.
problems.
Yeah. 4 knee reconstructions.
Yeah, and unfortunately his football life ended quick. So he came to me, but only for a short time because the knee was the issue. But then the Dragons reached out to me years ago, probably I'd say about 8 or 9 years ago, with Tyson Frizzell.
Right.
He
Legend.
was my OG. He likes to be known as the OG.
Original
We still
gangster.
keep in contact today, even though he's up at Newcastle.
I mean, he's got massive thighs and chest.
Yes, and
Top player.
absolute legend,
Yeah.
and such a nice guy.
He is.
I know I can say that loosely because people just go, oh yeah, they're all nice, but really great morals, great values. Got to know his wife. Was there when he was having kids, so kind of, you know, through the pregnancies, in terms of chatting to him and building a rapport with him, and we become like family because they're coming all the time and we're chatting, and got to know my family, and I build such a nice relationship with my clients, and it's such a nice community that I love what I do, and it's a joy to go to work. My husband gets jealous. He's like, you have the best job. I get so many. It's almost like it opens up a world of connections.
Yeah.
It's like a network.
Yeah, and it's rewarding. You're
Yeah.
doing good things, you know, and then you're watching them on TV performing, and it's because of you. So it'd be massive buzz.
And I remember Channel 9 did a story on it years ago of it's the Dragon's secret weapon to their success. But they didn't say... No, sorry, they said Pilates, but I wasn't mentioned. It was just a loose word.
Yep.
But it was starting to get the recognition it deserved, which was I was happy. And I was very humble back then, thinking, oh, well, that's great, because being on the board at the time, it was a bit of a big deal that I was slowly trying to build a name out there, and I was just happy that it was getting recognition, you know, in the community, let alone in the athlete world. And then honestly, over time, the word has spread, and I've worked so hard to build it up, and I'm so proud of just having a business I've just created out of nothing. Because let's not forget, I was a teacher and I was happy being a school teacher, and I just decided one day to have a dream and start a business.
It's fantastic. Like I remember, I mentioned to you off air that's how I found out who you were. You were a double spread page in Sunday paper. You're on 2GB. Even when I was talking to you on the phone a couple of weeks ago, my sons were hearing me and they go, "Is that Helen?" I go, "Thanks Helen, we know her."
Yeah.
So what's the story with Thanks Helen? What happened there?
That was a
hit
funny
like
meme.
1 million views or something.
Yeah,
like that.
that's right. So back in 2024, I used to teach. I taught Bronson Cherry, and I've had him probably coming into the studio when he was at the Sharks, so very young, for about 6 years.
So maybe a bit of background to him. So he was a NRL player, then he got suspended for 2 years.
3.
3 years, was it? Oh, 3, okay.
Yes.
3?
You know what? It may have been more than that.
Is it 4?
Doesn't matter. Maybe
it was a long time. It was a very lengthy suspension.
So Bronson was suspended for a few years, and during the suspension, he was coming and doing Pilates. But prior to that, he was as well. So I had him before the suspension. Mm-hmm. And then he was excited because obviously the Bulldogs signed him, and it was a great opportunity coming out of suspension to have a club that believed in him and wanted him to genuinely excel in, because he's a very good player.
Yeah. And what was his mental state? Because we just saw it. So it was 4 years suspension.
Not great. Not
so
great.
That's where you would have kicked in with the Pilates. And
So there were times that he wasn't well enough to come.
Yeah.
And I would always be, come on, I'm here for you. We can do this. And because he lived across the road from me, it was easy for him. Because there's times when, if you've got depression or you feel resentment and you're just in your own headspace, it's hard for you to get out of that. Very hard. So sometimes it takes somebody to just send you a text message. Are you okay? Here for you. Don't forget you've got your Pilates session. And when he would come, he loved it.
Yeah.
But I think it was also hard for him to see people and just felt, I don't know, he had his own issues. Anyway, so then he started to obviously train hard during pre-season, and then early February 2024, he came into the studio and it was a shirtless session. He was proud of his muscles and physique, and I always encourage it. Yeah. So I used to have players coming in all the time just to retract a little bit. So James Seguiaro, Chico, he was a great Pilates mover and used to always take his shirt off.
Okay.
Josh Mansell, another one happy to take his shirt off. Tyson was a little shy to do it, but when the others were doing it, he didn't want to miss out.
Oh, he'd stand out. He'd have a great physique.
My forwards weren't keen because they had a bit of a gut.
Bit of a beard.
Yeah.
So, your props and your forwards, like Campbell Gillard wasn't keen, and I had Ava. Do you remember Ava? Very long last name. Anyway, so they weren't keen to come and take their tops off. So Matt Moylan, Sean Johnson, slowly they all, even Cole Flanagan.
Ava Sumanafagai.
Yeah, him.
Yeah.
Ava Sumanafagai.
So the Thanks Helen. So he got a contract with the Bulldogs.
Yes.
So he took February, took his shirt off.
And I said, good luck for the season, darling, all the best. And he said very proudly, thanks, Helen. That's it. And then I posted it on my story and he reposted it, and then it went off.
Yeah.
So somebody took it from the Bulldogs fan page and it went viral. They were laughing at it, thinking this is hilarious, and I'm looking at it going, I don't even see why it's funny, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's just me being me.
Yeah.
And it went off from there, and it became the biggest meme last year.
Yeah, it was huge.
It was like people were holding up signs.
Yeah, I remember I saw it.
This is going to shock you. At the Taylor Swift concert, they were making friendship bracelets with Thanks Helen on them.
Oh, you're joking.
No.
Oh, wow. Didn't hear that.
There was posters, T-shirts, songs.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. And I got onto podcasts from it with the NRL, and it was all in good jest. But then I think people started digging that were looking into what's his Thanks Helen, and thought, actually, she does good work. It's not just some lady that teaches Pilates. So hence why all the chat about.
But I think the big one is that he actually played well.
Exactly.
He came out. I think that was a massive one. So
but
really
it wasn't just credit to me, because he put the work in pre-season.
Yeah.
And he was at home a lot, so he could train and get his body into shape.
Yeah.
But he is a very good player, and his physique is excellent. He's fast. He trains with Roger Fabry. He does a lot of sprint training. He's got a majestic approach to training, in the sense that he's got a team that helps.
Yeah.
So it's not just... I was doing a lot behind the scenes, but the Pilates... I'd say it's a good thing to say secret weapon, because even though it's not outwardly looking like, you're strong in the sense that you run fast. How do I say it? It's like it's working secretly on the inside, the muscles
definitely.
and the strength. So it gives you that endurance to go further.
Yeah. You do deserve it. If he actually said thanks to you, and I think we were talking about it with it. Is he going to come back? How good he was? Is he going to drop off? But
it's a long time out of the game. I mean, absolutely credit to yourself
and to make his debut so quickly, and to stay in the starting team is huge,
massive.
So the obviously, because you know what the NRL is like, they're very quick to drop somebody if someone's not performing.
No, you did well. Look, and even me personally following the Dragons, the beginning of this year, we normally have injuries all the time, the Dragons. You know, people get injured in pre-season, Charity Shield, we get injuries.
What about our lot, mate?
Yeah, I know. But I remember beginning of 24, we had a really good, solid run. Not many big injuries.
Not many big. I mean, Jack Bird hurt his ankle.
That was late.
That was late. That was April at the Anzac Day game.
Yeah, but he bounced back quite quickly. It looked like a really bad injury. I think we're at that game. But I thought he'd be gone by March, February. You know, a couple of games out because he was very vulnerable to injuries.
Yeah.
But we all thought, what is it? What is it with the Dragons? We thought it was the strength and conditioning, but it's probably a combination.
Some torn muscles and some niggles here and there are nothing in hindsight.
Yeah.
I think major concussions are probably your biggest one. Your ACLs and your shoulders.
Yeah.
They're the big ones.
Yeah.
So we didn't get many of those at all. So honestly, the boys, they do well with their training and their rehab. It's a very stringent training. They get their massages. They have their wrestling that they do, their Pilates that they do. These days, the coaches and the fitness area of NRL, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Times have changed.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk 2025 now. So how are the Dragons looking? Like, I've seen Hamiselli all the time.
You've signed well.
Toko Jr., Loco Jr., he's a machine. Like, I can't wait for him to play.
Everybody loves Loco.
Mate, look at him.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. How's he going? Is he very flexible? What's his mobility like?
No. I yell at him all the time.
Really?
But he tries. I mean, let's not forget how old he is.
He's 19?
Yeah. I mean, he's young.
Yeah.
And look already. Yeah. But I want to talk about the player that's been coming to me that is fantastic from Penrith, Paul Alamotti.
Oh, yeah. Legend.
Okay, now he has just turned 21 and already has won a premiership.
Yep.
I have never met anybody, I had him today actually in a Pilates session, who is so strong-minded and determined and so mature for his age in terms of understanding what he needs and applying it. Because I often get players that come and they're a bit flaky, I'll be honest. They love it, but they're like, I'm too sore, I've got training, it's my day off. They find excuses. There's only a select few, the Sean Johnsons, Tyson Frizzell's, those ones, the Hamisellis, the ones that, I mean, he's got 4 kids and he still comes on his day off.
And he had a heart issue too.
Yeah, they're the ones that make a difference, the 1%ers.
Yeah.
But Paul Alamotti, he is a fantastic athlete.
Yeah.
I play favourites, I know, I can't help it. But honestly, it's a joy for me to teach those people because I don't feel like I have to push them all the time.
Yeah.
He said to me today, do you think I should come when it's game day? Not ever as a player ask me that. And I'm like, so look, I think that's something you have to take up with the coach and obviously, you know, in terms of your regime, because you're going to be sore and I don't want to be responsible if...
Yeah. Well, he's a local boy. He went to Cogramurus with my nephew and he's good mates with my nephew.
Yeah.
So I think he brought his premiership ring to my sister's house.
Oh, he's fantastic. But, really nice guy.
And he is a good bloke. You very unassuming. You wouldn't think he's like a
amazing
NRL premiership player. The way he holds himself, he's just very humble, happy to sit in the background. But great to hear that because I've heard a lot of good things about him, and I don't think we've mentioned it before off air.
But I'm hopeful the Dragons play very well this year.
Any inside tips that you want to give us from the Dragons?
No.
Anyone that might have a injury that we might not know about?
No.
No, they're all good and healthy and fit.
They're all healthy. because they all do Pilates.
Yeah, fantastic.
See, this would be music to my ears if we were talking about South, because, mate, we have had an absolutely torrid run over the last couple of years.
But you guys have had your fair share of a good run. Let's face it.
We have as well.
Let's come on. You got to share the load here.
That's true.
Yes.
Mate, here we go. Secret weapon time. This is why we're going to go good this year. Top 8. I can feel it now.
Mate, looking at the roster the other day, I was messaging you. Looking at the roster, I thought, mate, this is capable of a top 4 spot.
Yeah, got my season tickets now, so I'll be up there in the grandstand. Do you go to the games?
I do.
Yeah?
I do. I'll be honest, I like to watch it at home.
Yep.
And people say, who's my favourite team? It's who I teach is who I follow.
Right. Perfect. Right, so you've told us who your good athletes are. Who are your whingers and complainers? Do you have any?
I can't name and shame, boys. That's not very nice.
Give us one that's come good. He was tough, but he's come... No, he was hard, but he's come good.
Local.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Whinges, complains, but he's getting better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
He knows he needs it.
Yeah.
A lot of them know they need it, but they often complain. I'd say him, but I've taught so many over the years. But they come and go, so
What's
these
Josh
ones
Mansour like?
But he's a whinger.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He complains a lot.
Really?
Spits the dummy.
What, because it gets too hard?
Too hard. It hurts.
Really?
But that's his personality, and that's fun.
Okay.
And I love that because you don't want somebody who is not fun to teach.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it all better when there's a bit of banter, which is why I think they love coming too.
Yeah.
So,
what was Ben Hunt like?
Taught Ben a couple of times, very quiet, but another hard worker, very determined, good mindset.
Yeah.
Taught his wife as well. A lot of the time the players come and then their partners come because they they know it's good or they want to check it out or whatever. But Ben's great. So he should do well up in Brisbane because he's from Brisbane.
Yeah.
It's like Sean going back to New Zealand. I think it's their homeland and they'll thrive there.
Yeah. One of my favourite cricketers is Steve Waugh growing up.
Steve's fantastic. Steve's been coming to me for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Twice a week for a private lesson.
Yep.
And his wife, Lynette, she does online with me and they're very close family friends of ours as well. So Steve's great. Yeah, a lot of respect for Steve.
Yeah.
For those outside Australia, Steve Waugh, legendary Australian
cricket captain. And he's like an icon god in India.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Can't say I like cricket myself. Don't really watch it. Not a fan. But as Steve says to me, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
It's probably one of the most popular sports in the world now, I think.
Well, purely because of the Indians.
I think it is.
Yeah. When you've got that many billions of people following the IPL, international cricket, mate, it's going to be up there surely.
There was an American show the other day I was watching, and I was saying, who do you think the most followed athlete is? And they're all saying LeBron, but no, it was Virat Kohli.
I was going to say it's got to be Kohli.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, like 200 million followers or something ridiculous like that.
You guys should get that new cricketer on here, the young Greek boy.
We will. Yeah, we're close. We're close.
Now that you mention it.
Do you boys have any football fans? Are you football fans?
As in soccer?
Yeah, definitely. My son, Man United, Sydney FC.
Teach a few players as well.
Oh, I do. Should we talk about some soccer players?
Soccer players. So I actually taught Vedran Janjanovic at school.
Oh, right.
He was the goalie for Wanderers. I think he moved around. I think he's retired now.
Yeah. Have you had any Socceroos come through?
No, I've got
not yet.
The Matildas.
Yeah.
So I teach Alana Kennedy.
Massive. Yeah.
And all the future Matildas as well. Mm-hmm. So, Kyra Cooney-Cross and Courtney Nevin and I've got Amy Harrison. She's an ex-Matilda, so she's now, I think, Wanderers captain.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. So what would you recommend? So I'm beginning to get the onset of arthritis in my knee. What do you recommend for someone like me? Is it worth coming in for 1 or 2 sessions a week?
When it's bone on bone, it's hard.
Okay.
Because the pain, the movement is limited as to position that you can get into, which is difficult. But having said that, unless you're going to have surgery.
No.
So if surgery is not an option, you need to build up your quads.
Yeah. So I go to the gym and I do find things like I can't do squats. I've stopped that. But when I do sled push, sled pull, I do like basic box jumping, things like that.
I think you probably need to do, if you lay on the reformer and do against gravity lying down, pushing against the foot bar, you build up strength without loading the knee so it's comfortable. So probably reformer Pilates or Pilates stuff that I do is beneficial for you because you're not weight bearing. So that is perfect for it. Okay. And you can build up strength eccentrically, laying down and lengthening as you move.
Yeah, perfect.
I think you've got to do this, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think? How can we improve Tom?
Or me? I haven't trained
because I reckon you're the type of person that would see someone walk down the street and you say, he needs
something
that,
wrong there.
He needs that. I'd chuck him on this machine. I'd make him do that. Is that what you do?
Not really.
No? Okay.
No. I'm too busy. I switch off when I'm off work.
But if you saw someone walk into your studio with a slight limp, you'd pick up straight away what you need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I try and encourage my husband to come more often because he's so stiff.
Yeah.
And
that's how I feel.
Yeah, his back is very tight, but I think he avoids it because I think he finds it hard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's difficult. It's a little bit intimidating because even though you understand that there's benefits, you've got to really think about what you're doing, and it's not easy because you've got to synchronize your movement with your breathing and your flow. So it can be a little bit off-putting because it's, as I said, you've got to concentrate on what you're doing to get the benefit. If you do that, you're good. But if you've got a bit of ADHD, it's hard. Yeah. Because you're distracted.
Focus cognitively.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of people like group classes because it pushes you along.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then
and
having said that, private lessons are popular too because people don't want to be seen in a group.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. It's like, no, I don't want... I want you to tailor it just for me. I don't want generic exercises. So it's got its benefits as to group versus private lessons.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
Yeah.
So for those who are interested in Pilates, how do they get in contact with you? Who's it for? Who do you recommend this is for? Is this something for everyone? Is there someone that's too far gone if they have a particular problem?
It's definitely for everybody. I've got an 8-year-old girl that I teach. Well, she's 9 now, and she had cancer.
Wow.
And her mother contacted me and said in her spine she has a peripheral neuropathy where the chemo has damaged her leg. So she has nerve damage. So she was wondering if the coordination and building up strength would help. And I've had her now for 2 years. The child is... I nickname her Sweet Pea. She's an absolute legend and an inspiration. Never complains. Everyone should be like that. Yep. So she's the youngest I've ever had, but she's an anomaly. She's not your normal child that would come because they're distracted or they don't understand their body, whereas she's different. She's special. And then I probably taught, my eldest was 88.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Has passed away not long ago, unfortunately, from dementia. But yeah, that was special too. And everyone in between. So to answer your question, it is for everybody. People that want to start for different reasons. As I said, I specialise in elite athletes, but we do take anyone, of course, if there's availability. It's best to check out the website and see what the schedule is. But ideally, I like private lesson assessment because... I want to see, even if someone wants to join a class, I need to see and gauge what level they're at in terms of their movement. And so I can direct and say mat work, reformer, circuits, you need a private lesson, semi-private, and so forth. So I like to screen, tailor, and suggest rather than you just slot in to anywhere.
Sure.
Because it's like chucking yourself in the deep end. You don't know how you're going to be.
Yeah, right. So what's your website? How can people find you and get in contact with you?
So it's pilatesinsync.com.au, and I'm on Instagram, Pilates in Sync, and I'm on TikTok. If you like a bit of NRL fun, there's heaps of stuff on TikTok. There is a schedule online and a booking system, or they can just try and contact me via email, and I always like someone reaching out on email and explaining the situation of their background and their fitness level and their age, so I have an idea, and their availability. I don't have much availability. I don't want to say I'm closed in my bookings, but I don't take many new clients on because I'm quite full.
Yeah,
my schedule is
imagine.
Well, testament
busy.
to everything you're doing, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I do have online classes. So if you feel a bit uncomfortable but you want to work in your lounge room and you want to have good instruction, then there are some mat class options online. So it's all on the website, and it's quite comprehensive, the website, so you can have a read and check out the options and just have a look. Sometimes people want to have a look what it's about.
Fantastic.
So people that come to you, do they automatically get a nickname from you as well? Is that part of the deal?
Sometimes, yeah.
What would his be?
You
got to pay for that.
No, I think my nickname for when you've got no idea and you're new is Numpty.
Numpty. Okay.
You're a numpty.
Oh,
Love
great.
it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I walk in, here comes Numpty 1 and 2.
Yeah, numpty. Yeah. Exactly.
Good stuff. Well, it sounds like fun. Look, I think people should reach out because not only making a bit of fun, you can meet interesting people while you're there as well. I'm sure there's a big network of people there.
Oh, absolutely. It's become a little hub and a community, and especially some nice looking girls there that come to me, let me tell you.
Oh, Nick, you're up, mate.
Okay.
You're up.
Yeah.
What days are they?
I think you don't need a dating website when you're coming to Pilates in Silk.
Oh, really?
Because, there's...
Okay.
I think they say, the Run Club now is a way to date people at the
You're
Run
joking.
Club. Now at Pilates in
I can't
Sync,
run, but I can
you
do
might
Pilates.
just have a little bit of eye candy there.
Really? Okay. See, that's how you sell it.
That should be on the website. That is the number one
But if
selling
you don't
point.
want to come and you want to look still, I post everything and their stories, so you can follow me and you can see a day in the life of Helen with all the numpties, all the shirtless footy players,
all the good-looking people.
all the good-looking people.
Is there a priority before you start recording people? Do you give them a chance to build up? No.
And that's...
There's a rating system.
It's a non-negotiable prerequisite, I say. When you start with me, you get filmed. And then I've had people beg me not to film them. And I respect that.
Yeah,
a privacy thing. Because some people... I want to be filmed when I'm better, and I'm like, but the bloopers is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some people in some really awkward positions.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm sure there'll be a lot of bloopers.
Absolutely. And it's not the most flattering positions. We're talking legs in the air, spread out.
Yeah.
Good morning, sunshine stretch, I say. Legs open.
Okay.
What'd you have for breakfast?
Yeah.
Don't worry, I could tell you. No.
Yeah. So,
Sounds like a Roy and HG sketch.
It does.
yeah.
It sounds like fun. And then
Yeah, it's
before you
fun.
realise it, a month later, you're hopping out of bed, as opposed to, getting, people usually grab their hip getting out of bed or grabbing their knee.
You'll be surprised. Even 1 hour a week makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing to take out of this, So if you do have any sort of issues, if there's something that, if you can feel, or if you've been ignoring that one thing for so long, this might be the answer for you. We've used that terminology, secret weapon, a few times during this episode.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably apt when it comes to this.
Definitely. And it was a great analogy that you said. People who can't, well, they're used to seeing a certain way and thinking that's it, but if you don't do anything about it, you don't realise how more you can see. So
exactly right.
How more mobile you can be. So fantastic. Look, Tom, what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, mate, I think we're both going to give it a go at some point.
Really? All right.
I think
if you
so.
Go, I'll go.
Absolutely. Well, look, Helen,
thank
thank you so much for that. I mean, we've learnt a lot out of it. For
Fantastic.
someone like, for both of us, I mean, we know a little bit about training, but this is a great deep dive, and we've learnt something that we can, number one, consider, but hopefully everyone out there is, considering it. Make sure, the message to everyone, at the very least, make sure you're following Helen on social media so you can see what she's doing, see the great work, see the numpties, see the funny stuff.
Yes. See the legends.
That's it.
No, well done. Well said.
Thanks for having me, boys. It's been great.
Helen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you.
Well, guys, ouzotalk@outlook.com is the email. Follow us on social media at Ouzo Talk and at Ouzo_talk on Instagram and also on YouTube. Nick Athanasiou, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Ouzo Talk is produced, written and presented by Tom Skolarikas and Nick Athanasiou. Our theme music is written and played by Peter Apostolidis, with additional music from George Kalapidis and Bouzouki legend Thanasis Polikadriotis.
Ακολουθήστε μας στο Soundees, στο Spotify, στο Apple Podcasts και στο Google Podcasts.